This week, we've got a few more high quality strikeout pitchers available to us for the first time in a while. Find out who those pitchers are and how they can help coming up next.
It's about that time.
Stone on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You're tuned into Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. My name is Matt, flying solo in the booth today, but never fear, still bringing you that high effort, medium quality content that you all are used to. Today, it's two start pitchers. We've got some decent ones on the wire as well. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Do want to say hi to Dubo and Loud Boy in the chat. Yes, today I am the lonesome dove, but we're going to work our way through it. And as a matter of fact, we are going to get things started right now, and that is with Javier Assad from the Cubs. He has starts against Detroit at home and at Miami. And with Detroit, unless they're playing Seattle and more specifically George Kirby, they've been pretty bad as of late. They sold off a couple decent bats at the deadline, been dealing with quite a few injuries as well, specifically to the pitching staff. They do a good job of putting the ball in play, though, and those teams can be pretty dangerous. Miami, on the other hand, they've been masquerading as a passable offensive team the past couple of weeks, but that's still kind of relative. They've been mid-packing runs with a bit of pop, but they're also tied with Colorado for the most strikeouts. As for Assad on the season, he's 5-3 with a 3.19 ERA. He's got a 4.55 FIP and 4.74 xFIP. Can you say lucky? Because that's what this dude has been. He's got a 137 whip, 92 strikeouts, 49 walks, 13 home runs allowed, and 107 and a third innings pitched. And he has been pitching slightly better lately, albeit with fewer strikeouts, but a better FIP. He's also failed to pitch 5 innings in his last 3 starts. Not good. The strikeouts with him, not amazing, but actually they're a little bit better than I expected. He's got a rate that's just under 20%. He's striking out 7.7 per 9. Obviously, we want those numbers a little bit higher, but he can still get one when he needs it. His swinging strike rate and whiff rates are just awful, though. The swinging strike rate is actually the worst among pitchers with 100 or more innings pitched, and his whiff rate is in the bottom 3%. The strikeouts are coming from somewhere, though, and he gets a big boost with his 18.6% called strike rate. That's actually 15th best among those pitchers with 100 or more innings pitched. And despite halfway decent movement on his pitches, his chase rate ranks in the bottom 10% of the league. He's pretty inefficient with his pitches as well, throwing strikes just 61% of the time. When we're talking about a whip of almost 1.4, it's a little concerning. He's actually allowing fewer hits than the average pitcher from a per 9 basis, but it's got to be driven by walks then, right? With a walk rate of 10.5% and a per 9 over 4, you would be correct. This dude also gives up a lot of contact, as in he allows contact 85% of the time a lot. That's the second highest rate around, and his 89.8% rate in the zone is 9th highest. Batters have been pretty patient against him, though, with swing rates several points below league average, but that tends to happen when you're only throwing strikes about 60% of the time. All things considered, the quality of contact that he allows isn't half bad. He's got an exit velocity of 88.3 and a hard hit rate just over 37%. Both of those put him in the top third of the league. His barrel rate is a touch high, though, at 8.1%, but it's fine. And his weak contact rate is excellent at just over 6.5%. Dude is a fly ball pitcher, and they have a tendency to get burned, especially at Wrigley Field, so it's no surprise his home runs per 9 is over 1. He does get a decent amount of ground balls, though, and does well at limiting line drives. He doesn't get pulled a whole lot either, but that doesn't explain how he's carrying a strand rate of 83.7%. Given his batted ball profile and relative lack of strikeouts, I really don't understand how he's maintained that all year, other than to call back to one of my original points. This dude has just been really friggin' lucky. But he's a pretty good option if, you're in need of something there. We're going to move right along now. We've got an Atlanta Braves pitcher that looks a hell of a lot like Kenny Powers, and he would have fit right into Detroit's bullpen. And that is Grant Holmes. So this dude is owned in just 8% of leagues. He's got 2 home starts against the Phillies and the Nationals. And that Philly offense has been struggling. They're top 12 in average and slugging. They're putting the ball in play, but it's just not translating to runs. And there's been a lack of power there as well, which is really surprising considering the lineup. Washington is almost a carbon copy of Philly, top 10 in average and on base percentage. They're putting the ball in play, but they're not hitting for power and they're not scoring runs either. Holmes looked halfway decent yesterday. He allowed 2 runs on 8 hits, walking 1 and striking out 6 in 7 innings pitched. And the dude started out the year in the bullpen, moved to the rotation on July 29th. On the season as a whole, he's 1-0 with a 3.60 ERA. He's got a FIP, a 2.98, and a 3.24 xFIP, a 1.13 WHIP. He struck out 47, walked 10, allowed 4 homers, and 45 innings pitched. Those are good numbers overall, but how's he done since entering the rotation, right? That's what we want to know. Well, he's got a 4.57 ERA. The FIP is at 3.87 and the xFIP is at 2.87. So he's been pretty unlucky. A 1.34 WHIP, 26 strikeouts, 5 walks in 21 2/3. He's gone at least 5 innings in 3 of his 4 starts, but he's also allowed a home run in each start. So a little good and a little bit of the bad with him. I'm going to focus as much as possible on his time as a starter, just because that's going to be the most relevant. But we do want to keep in mind that we're talking about a pretty small sample here. The strikeouts are nice, and you generally have a hard time finding them on the wire this time of year. He's got a rate of 28%, striking out almost 11 per 9. Swinging strike rate of almost 15% is outstanding, and he's got a whiff rate over 30%. He's been incredibly efficient as well, throwing strikes 71% of the time, including 65.5% on the first pitch. It's always important to get ahead of batters early in the count. He's also got hitters guessing out there. His chase rate is well over 37%. If you're throwing that many strikes, chances are you're not walking a whole lot of dudes, and that's the case with Holmes. He's got a walk rate under 5.5%, and he's walking just a hair over 2 per 9. Another byproduct of striking out a lot of batters is not allowing much contact. So far in the rotation, he's allowing contact just 72% of the time and under 83% in the zone. Both of those numbers are really, really good and give a reason for optimism. Quality of contact, though, isn't great, but it's not that bad. His exit velocity is just over 89 miles an hour. He's got a hard hit rate at 39.5, both just a little worse than average. His weak contact rate is a little low at 2.4%, but we've also seen worse this season, and his barrel rate is really good at 6.5%. Looking at his batted ball profile, we can see he's a ground ball pitcher with an average fly ball rate, and he does a good job at limiting line drives. He really doesn't get pulled a whole heck of a lot either. Because he gets a lot of vertical movement on his pitchers, he gets batters to top the ball quite a bit as well, leading to that nice ground ball rate. I'd be lying if I said giving up 4 home runs or giving up home runs in 4 straight games isn't a concern, especially against a Philly lineup with plenty of power potential. That's a lot of P sounds in there. But based on how he's been pitching and how they've been hitting, I'm going to go ahead and take the chance with him. So let's see here. What do we got going on in the chat? Dubo and Loud Boy talking about 10. What the hell just happened? That wasn't what I expected. Kelsey's in here, says Matt finally off Kyle. You know, it was only a matter of time before I took my rightful spot alone on the throne of this show, and here I am. Now we're going to talk about, and this is our third 2-start pitcher that has eligibility at both reliever and starter, for those of you that look for that little bit of lineup flexibility, and that is David Peterson of the Mets. He's owned in about 27% of leagues. He's got starts at home against Baltimore and on the road at San Diego. And look, I'm not going to lie to you, this is a tough assignment. Baltimore offensively, they've been kind of mid-pack lately. They're hitting for a decent average, but they haven't been scoring a whole lot. but they have been striking out quite a bit. It's important to note that they're 7th in hits and lead baseball in home runs hit off lefties this season, though. And San Diego's been the hottest team in baseball over the past, we'll call it month. Don't really need to say much more than that. When you're the best, chances are you're performing well across the board. Peterson's got 13 starts so far this year. He's 7-1 with a 3.04 ERA, a 4.39 FIP, and 4.55 xFIP. So this is another cat that's been pretty lucky. He's got a whip coming in at 1.39, 56 strikeouts, 34 walks in 71 innings pitched. And this dude, the strikeouts are way down this season compared to the last couple of years. He's got a strikeout rate just over 18%, having been in the mid-20s, and his K per 9 is just over 7 when he's been well over 10. The swinging strike rate is following the same trend. It's down a couple points to 10.7%. His whiff rate doing the same thing. It's just under 25% when it's been around 30. Despite those declines, I'm still pretty confident he can get a strikeout when he needs it. He does have the ability to fool batters, though. His 27.8% chase rate isn't really all that bad. Like Javier Assad, though, he is struggling with walks. His rate is sitting at 11% flat, and he's walking 4.3 per 9. Those ratios are the norm for him, unfortunately, though. And he's never had a walk rate below 10%, and he's only been under 4 walks per 9 once. In terms of contact, he's pretty much a league average guy. Contact rate just over 77%, just over 86% in the zone. The Mets are a bottom third team defensively with limited range, so I'm a little surprised that his BABIP is 286. I figured it'd be closer to his career average of 312. When we look at his quality of contact, that shit's not amazing. He's got an EV of 90 flat, a hard hit rate, a tick under 44%. His barrel rate isn't bad at 8 flat, but he doesn't induce much weak contact with a rate under 3%. That's a lot of hard hit balls, folks. And this dude is an extreme ground ball pitcher with a ground ball rate well over 53%. And that's helped him to keep the ball in the park despite all those hard hit balls. And it's really been his saving grace. His fly ball rate is about average, and his line drive rate is just over 21%, which is pretty good, actually. It's a little bit below league average there. Like I said, dude's been pretty lucky this season, and the Mets are plenty capable of providing good run support. The luck is going to run out at some point, and it just might be this week. If you're going to roll him out there, make sure you're proceeding with caution. So let's see. We got, folks talking all that trash. Kyle's Tigers hat is back there, and look, there's blood. Yep, it sure is. One of the books on the shelf called How I Got Away with It. Yeah, I'm a big O.J. Simpson fan. Glad you guys are having a good time there in the chat. Murder, she wrote. Nah, dude, murder, he wrote. But not really. It's not an admission of any kind. Anyways, you know what? Let's move along here. So I got a streaming option for you out of Tampa Bay, and that is Shane Baz. He's owned in 42% of leagues. He's got 2 starts next week. He's got a start at Oakland and at the Dodgers. I'm going to stream him against Oakland. I am not running his ass out there against the Dodgers. They're just too good of a team, and Tampa is too bad of a team. And that Oakland offense has been kind of ass lately. They're not really scoring many runs. They're not hitting for power, for average. They're not getting on base all that much. They do a good job of putting the ball in play, though, and they will draw a walk. Through 7 starts this season, he's 0-2 with a 4.21 ERA. His FIP and xFIP are in the same neighborhood. He's got a whip over 1.4, 32 strikeouts, 14 walks, 4 home runs allowed, and 36 1/3 innings pitched. And when you're coming back from Tommy John surgery, velo is the first thing that comes back, and then command and feel. And we can see that he's had some command struggles. His walk rate is up to almost 9% after being in the 6 to 7% range in his previous stints in the majors. Walks per 9 aren't the worst at 3.5, but it's still considerably higher than where he was pre-surgery. His strikeouts are down, and that's to be expected. His rate is just barely over 20%. He's fanning just under 8 per 9. He's not getting too much swing and miss either, with a 10.5% swinging strike rate and a chase rate just over 23.5%. His called strike rate is pretty low as well, and he's been kind of inefficient with his pitches, throwing strikes just 64% of the time. His first pitch strike rate isn't too bad, but still below average. He isn't fooling anyone either. A 21.7% chase rate is really one of the worst in the game, if I'm being honest with you. Whoops. And get my notes back here. He's allowing contact a little under 79% of the time overall and a little over 85% in the zone. The overall rate is a little higher than average, and his zone rate is dead on average. And really, when it comes to contact, just keep it under 80% for me. Quality of contact, though, terrible. Exit exit velocity is over 92 mile an hour, and I'm not sure there's anybody higher in the league than that. His hard hit rate's over 47%, and that's in the bottom 3% of the league. The barrel rate is 8 flat, and considering his average launch angle is over 17 degrees, I really don't know how he's kept it that low. And he's not coaxing much weak contact either, with a rate under 2%. His fly ball rate is just under 30% at the expense of his ground ball rate. He's also getting pulled quite a bit, but he's somehow doing a decent enough job of keeping the ball in the park. He's allowed home runs in just 2 of his 7 starts, one of which was against Houston his last time out. And in those 2 games, he allowed 2 home runs in each game. This dude is a gamble of striking, or a gamble capable of striking out a batter per inning and giving you a quality start. Like I said earlier, I don't want to start him against the Dodgers, but I've got no issue running him out there against Oakland. What's going on? We got Luis Correa in the house. Kelsey is winning her matchup. Congratulations. Stay on that winning streak. Let's see. Dubo says he picked up Boz last week. Not too bad. Not too bad. So who do we got next up here? I guess I could just go look at my banners and see. We're about halfway through. All right. We're going to talk about DJ Herz from the Washington Nationals. He's owned in just 6% of leagues. He's got starts at home against Colorado, and he's going to Atlanta. Colorado, they've scored a few runs, but they've been coming in spurts. They strike out a ton. They don't get on base a whole hell of a lot. And while they have some power, it's consolidated among just a couple players in that lineup, and they're a much different team on the road than they are at home there in Coors. Atlanta's been better the past couple weeks compared to where they had been. They're scoring runs at a good clip and getting on base and hitting for power, but they also strike out a lot. And those 2 teams are a perfect pairing based on DJ Herz's perceived strength. Through 12 starts, he's 2-5, got a 4.25 ERA. His FIP is roughly the same. His xFIP's about a half a run lower, a 1.3 whip. He struck out 68, walked 19, allowed 10 home runs, and 55 innings pitched. We got more strikeouts on the wire. I'm loving it. He's got a strikeout rate over 28%, and he's striking out over 11 batters per 9. Lots of swing and miss there, too. His swinging strike rate is just under 13%, and his 30% whiff rate puts him in the top 15% of the league. His chase rate isn't quite so good at 29.2, but it's still better than most. He's also got a 10-mile-an-hour delta between his four-seamer and changeup, and we'd love to see that. And his changeup is legit, too. It's got a 193 average against, an 86.7 mile an hour average exit velocity, and a whiff rate over 25%. His walks, perfectly fine. He's got a rate under 8%, and he's walking just over 3 per 9. With all that swing and miss, it's had a great impact on his contact metrics. Dude's overall contact rate is an outstanding 73.5%, and he's under 80% in the zone. That's also a good thing because Washington is one of the worst defensive teams in the league, so he's had to take matters into his own hands at times. Don't read into that. Keep your mind out of the gutter, folks. Quality of contact, that's a little bit mixed. His exit velocity is high at 90.3, as is his barrel rate, which is an amazing 10% flat. But his hard hit rate is solid at 38%, and he induces a lot of weak contact. He's an extreme fly ball pitcher with a rate 10 points higher than average 34%. And that's come at the expense of both his ground ball and line drive rates, with them being well below league average. He gets pulled quite a bit. And when you combine that with a high fly ball rate and his ball is getting hammered, it makes perfect sense that he's allowing over 1.5 home runs per 9. However, he's only allowed 2 in his last 18 2/3 innings pitched. So maybe things are starting to look up. With him, the big upside is strikeouts, and that's what we're adding him for. After this week, he lines up for starts at home against the Cubs and at Pittsburgh. So there's a little bit of hold potential here with him as well. And I know he had that big, 11 strikeout game, 13 strikeout game, whatever the hell it was, several weeks back. And he's been kind of up and down since then. But remember, we're talking about a young dude. He's a rookie. You're going to get the variance in there. But I think he's in line to give you a couple decent starts this coming week. Back to the chat. Luis Correa. He's winning his matchup this week against his cousin by 100+ points already. Man, that's so great just to have a lead early in the season. Look at this. Kelsey says, don't part-time it. We're expecting a full hour. Well, I do my best to disappoint. We got a few more folks to go. Luis stashed Devin Williams and Merrill Kelly, and he's hoping they're league winners for him. Devin Williams was a really nice stash. Merrill Kelly, he's just a pitcher's pitcher, right? He doesn't blow you away with anything, but he still gives you some solid innings. If you're watching, hit the like and subscribe. Maddie needs to eat. That's right. Man's got to eat. Help me pay the bills. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you don't like watching, that's perfectly fine too. You can find us over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. I don't blame you for not wanting to stare at my ugly mug. So have I heard about the potential rule change idea for MLB where pitchers would have to go 6 innings with some sub rules to that injury and more than 4 earned run per innings? Thoughts? I kind of understand the premise behind it. And I think I saw something earlier too, where if the pitcher doesn't go the 6 innings and, he's not hurt or anything like that, then the team loses their DH. A lot of change in baseball in a short amount of time can have the opposite of intended effect in turning people off from the game. I'm not necessarily going to say I'm a purist, but, let's see if the changes we've made here over the past couple of years are still going to stick and be good for the game. And then we can look again. Kelsey says it's not nice to hammer a guy's balls. Yeah, probably not. But you know what? Don't knock people for their fetishes. You're actually pretty handsome, but you need to change your shirt once in a while. It's a clean shirt. I saw you talking that trash Tuesday, talking about laundry day. Don't think I don't notice. But enough of the trash talk. We got the next guy up. Yusei Kikuchi. And I'm pretty sure I said that name right. He's owned in a little bit over half of leagues. We'll call it 3 out of 5. And he's higher rostered than what we would normally talk about. But just he's been doing damn good since he went over to the Astros. He has starts at home against Boston, and he's going to Baltimore. For Boston, and stop me if you've heard this, the offense is going well, but they're striking out a ton. Baltimore, we already talked about. He's leading baseball. He started 25 games already this season. He's 6-9 with a 4.49 ERA. The FIP and XFIP are both a run lower, so there's been a bit of bad luck there. And with the way things went in Toronto this year for that team, there's no surprise there. He's got a 129 whip, struck out 154, walked just 36. He has allowed 19 home runs, and that's across 132 1/3 innings pitched. We're very lucky this week with so many strikeout pitchers available, even though he's someone else with a couple of tougher matchups. His strikeout rate is well over 27%, and he's striking out 10.5 per 9. There's a lot of swing and miss in there too. His swinging strike rate is almost 13%, and his 28.8% whiff rate's in the top quarter of the league. He isn't really fooling many, though. He's got a chase rate of just 26.8, but that's a small price to pay considering everything else that he's giving you. I'm going to go ahead and sweeten the pot a little bit too. Walk rate is an excellent 6.4%, and he's walking less than 2.5 per 9. That's really good when the big thing we're looking for is for guys to be under 3. His contact metrics are great as well, as you would expect with somebody that strikes out as many as Kikuchi does. His overall contact rate is under 73.5%, and his rate in the zone is just over 82. Another aspect to his bad luck ERA is his BABIP, which is really high at 330. The quality of his contact is also helping to drive that high BABIP, meaning it's bad, right? He's got a 90.6 exit velocity, a 45% hard hit rate, and a 10% barrel rate that all rank in the bottom 10% of the league. He does have a 4.3% weak contact rate, though, so he's got that going for him, which is nice. He's a fly ball pitcher, but not to the extreme. Fly ball rate's a little under 30% with a ground ball rate a little over 41. Line drives are a touch below league average as well. He does get pulled a bit, and that's contributed to his higher home run rate. He's made 3 starts for Houston since getting traded, and he's been lights out. He's 2-0 with a 2.70 ERA, struck out 24, walked 6, and 16 2/3. We talked earlier in the week about how a change of scenery can have a big impact, and we're seeing that so far from him. And I personally just despise the Astros over all the BS cheating and whatnot that happened. I don't really even know why that's relevant. I just wanted to say it, and it's my show. So you all can deal with it or not. Let's check out the chat here. I'm sure there's more trash talk. I said Coochie. I did my best. I'm trying. Do I think Yamamoto ever comes back? Still rotting in the produce drawer in the fridge. I think it's about time to clean that fridge out, girl. If he does come back, it's going to be at the very end of September, and you don't really know what he's even going to look like. After this long of a layoff, he's going to need several rehab starts just to get stretched back out. If you have somebody else you need to move to the IL, then, dump his ass. And I'm sure there's going to be some better pitching options available for you out there on the wire. If I remember right, you play on ESPN and these ownership percentages are from Yahoo. There can be a pretty big variance between the two. But, if you're taking a look through your available pitchers and have any questions, just let me know. Happy to help out. Next on the board, we talked about these dudes or this guy a little bit, I don't know, maybe a month ago, something like that. And that's Kyle Harrison. And as I've said many times over the course of this show, I'm never really a fan of people named Kyle. They always seem to screw everything up. But this dude has 2 cherry matchups at home against the White Sox, and he goes on the road to Seattle. The White Sox, they're the worst team in baseball. They don't score any runs. They don't hit for power. They don't really get on base all that well. They don't strike out all that much, though, and do well at just putting the ball in play. I guess, having good fundamentals is what they're going to be able to hang their hat on. Seattle can score some runs, but not against the Tigers because their asses just got swept in Detroit. But they do strike out a ton, and that's one of, if not the best pitchers parks in the game. Harrison has looked good so far as a rookie. He started 21 games. He's 6-5 with a 4.14 ERA, a FIP and XFIP close to it. He's got a 1.3 WHIP, struck out 103, walked 36. He's allowed 16 home runs across 111 innings pitched. And I really like his ratios here. The strikeout rate sitting at 22% with a K per 9 approaching 8.5. Not a whole lot of swing and miss with him, though. His swinging strike rate's just 9.5%. He's got a bottom third whiff rate of 23.6. Doesn't really fool many guys either, though. He's coaxing just a 25.8% chase rate. Wish he was a little more efficient. He's throwing strikes 64% of the time. And we really look for that to be closer to 67% or 2/3 of the time. And it seems like a lot of dudes are right in that like 64 to 67 range. He's not getting ahead early in the count either with a first pitch strike rate of just 55.4%. And when you get behind and end up throwing get me over pitches, you tend to give up some home runs. His walk rate is pretty solid as well. That's sitting at just 7.6%, and he's walking less than 3 per 9. So I'm a happy camper there. Contact metrics, not amazing. He's allowing contact just under 80% of the time. And remember, that's kind of the cutoff of what I'm looking for, which for me, again, is the max. Zone rate is high as well at 87.1. Like Kikuchi, his quality of contact is damn rough. He's got a 90.8 exit velocity, a 10.8% barrel rate, and a 44.3% hard hit rate. And those are all, again, in the bottom 10% of the league. He does get some help from his home ballpark, though, to limit the damage, and he's going to get some help in Seattle as well. From a batted ball perspective, dude's a fly ball pitcher, but he gets a good amount of ground balls as well. He's got a pretty good line drive rate to go with it, and he doesn't get pulled too much either. He doesn't necessarily have the same upside that a couple of the other dudes that I talked about today have, just because he doesn't strike out as many as Kikuchi or Holmes. But when you look at those matchups, if he's out there on the wire for you, I would definitely be in favor of picking his ass up. So we got 2 more to go here. Let's see. The Dubo Pitcher Show. Holy moly, you got him too. Chalk up the dub next week. LB, objects in your mirror may be closer than they appear. That's right. So for those of you that don't know, Mr. Supersonic Loudboy Enterprise is currently leading our podcast league, and he's been talking a whole bunch of trash about it, which he has earned the right to do. And that's pretty cool. Good for you. First year, we got Kelsey. She's leading her league. You know, we got winners here at Stoned On Sports. Wrong one. Is my new show called Pick His Ass Up? It just might be. It just might be. I'm going to have to trademark that name. And then we got someone, Ruizada 02. Hello from Portugal. He's watching over, or she is watching over on Twitch. We're available there as well. Not going to lie to you. I always forget about that because nobody ever watches us on there. Well, now we have one. So, all right. Getting off track here again. Got a streamer for you. Erod, former Tiger of the Diamondbacks. He's owned in half of leagues. And really, I'm going to advocate for him to start at Miami. The Marlins have been mid-packing runs, again, with a little bit of pop, and they're doing decent and getting on base, but they're tied with Colorado for the most strikeouts in the league the past couple of weeks. He's made 2 starts this season, allowing 10 hits, 6 earned runs, striking out 6. He's walked 3, had a couple dongs dropped on him, and 10 2/3. But Arizona has been one of the absolute hottest teams in the game. And that's really a lot of the appeal. Running Erod out there is just based on that, along with Miami being an excellent pitcher's park. He doesn't really strike out a whole lot of dudes anymore. And at his best, he was a little over a batter per inning. That said, he's still capable of giving you that in any given start. And with the way Miami's been striking out lately, there's a damn good chance he can do it against them. Arizona, they've scored the most runs in the game the past couple of weeks by a pretty wide margin. So run support shouldn't be too much of an issue with him. He doesn't walk a whole lot of dudes either, and I'm always on board with pitchers that don't beat themselves. He's been under 3 walks per 9 in 3 of the past 4 seasons. I don't necessarily want to call it a desperation play since he does have a track record of success, but he's also clearly still rounding into form there. So there is a bit of risk. And like I said, Miami's been a little bit pesky lately. I forget who his other start is against. It must have been bad because I don't want you guys to start him against them. But that Miami start is looking pretty good. So we're going to round out our last dude here. Let's see here. Kelsey with the dong talk. Loud boy, dropping them for folks. See, you're going to get stung in the playoffs, brother. You're going to find out it's a different world there. And our last dude, Zebby Matthews from the Twins. So he has starts at San Diego and against St. Louis. He's 14% owned. He got called up Tuesday. The Cardinals have been one of the worst offenses in the game. They're not scoring runs. There ain't much power. They're not getting on base, and they're striking out quite a bit. And the Twins offensively have been on another hot streak in the run department, so he should get some good run support. He made his major league debut Tuesday at home against Kansas City, where he allowed 2 earned, scattered 5 hits across 5 innings, and struck out 5. He got the win. And this dude, I had never heard of him, and I quite frankly had never heard of anyone named Zebby. And it turns out, if you're looking for him on the waiver wire, his given first name is Daniel. God, I'm an idiot today. He has pitched across 3 levels in the minors this season, and he has shown exceptional command. This dude struck out 114 and walked just 7 in 97 innings pitched across high A, double A, and triple A. And look, we can't glean a whole lot from just one start, but you can't argue with the results he's gotten this season as a whole. There's some good swing and miss there. He showcased a swinging strike rate in the minors anywhere from the low to mid-teens. He's also got some deception, sporting a chase rate over 32%. His contact rate at AAA was solid both overall and in the zone. ERA, though, was a little bit high, but he had a 3.86 BABIP. And again, it's AAA, it's dudes who, has-beens and never were's and quad A players. So, we want to take those numbers with a grain of salt. He's a ground ball pitcher that's done well at keeping the ball in the yard, aside from his first stint at high A ball last year, and that might as well be a lifetime ago. Taking a look at his prospect profile, he's got 2 above-average pitches in his fastball and slide piece and above-average command, which, if he's only walked 7 dudes this year. His changeup needs some work, though, and in his debut, he showcased a 3-pitch mix, 4-seamer, slider, and cutter, and he tossed out a couple show-me curveballs and changeups. That changeup really, again, it does need some work, though. Going against San Diego in San Diego is a tall task. If you don't want to run him out there for that, I certainly understand. But yeah, I'm licking my chops at that St. Louis start. They've been on the struggle bus here lately, and we've got to take advantage of that low-hanging fruit when we can find it. All right. And that's going to wrap up the 9 pitchers and 13 pages of notes I took for today's episode. And it's been a lot of fun. For the most part. Anyways. This chick, now that's a low blow. Enjoy the grilled cheese tonight. And for those of you that don't know, when I was a kid, I ate 3/4 of a brick of Velveeta and then threw it all up, and it really kind of ruined cheese for me. I'll eat mozzarella cheese on pizza, but that's about it. And now all of a sudden I'm the weird one. So it is what it is. LB says he's prepped, not worried for the playoffs. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to wish you the best of luck, brother. I want to see you do well. I want to see everybody that comes here and hangs out with us and supports us do well. And that reminds me, if Kyle was watching or if he was here, he'd be pitching a bitch at the moment. I got to get this like and subscribe graphic up there. And again, just say, if you enjoy what you see and what you hear, consider giving us a subscribe and a like. We're hustling towards 500 subscribers, and we can't get there without you. If you're a fantasy football fan, just like we are, we've got a fantasy football channel, Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. We've got our wide receiver preview coming up a week from this Sunday. So that should be a lot of fun, and that season is going to be here before you know it. But we're here to help you out all throughout draft season, all through in season. And we've got a couple weeks there in September where there's going to be a grind. It's looking like we're going to be doing 5 shows a week with a baseball and football show every Tuesday and Thursday. And then Sunday mornings, we help out with those last minute lineup decisions on our show that is so lovingly called Tinker Time. So anyways, I'm going to shut the hell up and fill my face. Appreciate everybody coming to hang out with me tonight. You guys are an awesome audience. We will talk to you soon. Oh, hold on here. Luis Correa says this is first year of fantasy baseball, so you don't know what to expect. Thing I tell everybody, it's a grind, brother. It's a grind. We've got a lot of first-time players in here. I've been playing for quite a while. Any questions you have, I'm happy to help. There are no such thing as stupid questions, just stupid people. Look at this. 8-week win streak. Damn, winning cures everything. Congratulations, brother. Playoffs are going to be here before you know it, and we're going to be here to help every step of the way. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everyone. I love the hell out of all yous. And as Kyle would say, stay stoned.